we're a very divided society. We look a lot more like the Middle East than we do like the West. So there's a kind of baseline Americanness to Americans, where even if they hate each other, they share some fundamental ideas and assumptions and identities and educations. In Israel, we don't. We literally have a four-stream education system that has radically different curricula for the different groups of Israeli society. And so we look like Lebanon. We look like Syria culturally. I mean, in terms of the scale of the divides between the different religious groups, the different religious ways of living, lifestyles between Ashkenazi and Mizrahi, and all the different kinds of Jews and all the different kinds of Arabs. And so when the government realized that the outbreak, the largest outbreak, the most significant outbreak, was among the ultra-Orthodox, and then the government's virus czar, a man named Roni Gamzu, who until last month was the head of policy on that issue, recommended shutting down, just imposing the lockdown locally where the outbreaks were largest and most significant, and saving the economy everywhere else. That was ultra-Orthodox. That was all ultra-Orthodox areas. And the ultra-Orthodox just rebelled and said, what are you people, you, the other tribes of Israel, ganging up on us as if we are vectors of disease? If that's not anti-Semitism, what is? And then when they turned to the Arab community, the Arab mayors said, guys, you haven't given me any powers. My community it's exploding everywhere. I can't shut down malls. I don't have those basic emergency powers. The government didn't coordinate with the Arab community because the Arab parties aren't in the government for long and complex and difficult reasons that we could get into some other time, but are fascinating and you should read about. So the different communities have really responded as tribes and don't trust the other tribes to be looking out for themselves. There isn't a baseline solidarity. And the virus showed us that. We know it in the day-to-day. And there's some things we all agree on, like the Israeli army should be very strong because there's a bunch of Assads and Khamenei's in this region and Islamic states and whatnot in this region. On that, we all agree. By the way, most Israeli Arabs, when you ask them, should the IDF be very strong, they say yes. They also know that they'd rather be living in the Israel part of the Middle East than in the non-Israel part of the Middle East. And also many of them have begun to really feel, about half have begun to really call themselves Israeli when you ask them identity questions. So there is this kind of baseline having to do with self-defense, with mutual self-defense and things like that. But when you get down to domestic issues, and the pandemic is so domestic that it just highlights for us our own internal realities of our societies everywhere, for everyone. For the French, it's doing it. It's certainly doing it for us. Everything kind of fell apart into these distrustful tribes. So it wasn't even a political issue. It was this just deep social anger. And when you see all those seats abandoned Netanyahu at one of the great moments of triumph in his career, with the normalization and Trump and the recognition of Jerusalem and the Golan and all this wonderful period, and suddenly so many people are abandoning him, it's because these basic sort of underlying divisions of Israeli society have come up and reared their heads, and those trump anything else. I mean, those dominate other things.